You're listening to the Trading Bear Podcast. This is episode 31, The Daily Show.
Mystery player. Position.
Defender.
Start price.
70p.
Current price.
£1.55.
PB.
0.
MB.
0.
Dividend yield.
0%.
Welcome back. Thanks for joining again. In the news today, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer pours cold water on the Pogba to Madrid rumours, adding his say today. Solskjaer said, Paul is a very nice and polite man who then answered a general question on Zidane, who is an icon in France, a fantastic manager who used to be a fantastic player. He's just politely answered that question, but Paul is happy here. He's going to be a big, big part. You'd like to build your team around him, and that hasn't changed at all. Moving north of Manchester and into Glasgow, and Rangers' Alfredo Morelos apologised once more as he picks up a 4-match ban after receiving his 5th red card of the campaign during yesterday's Old Firm derby, with Celtic running out the victors by 2-1. And the Pope confirms it once and for all, stating that Lionel Messi, his fellow Argentinian, is indeed not a god. Theoretically, this is sacrilegious, the Pope told a Spanish TV station. Watching Messi play? It's a pleasure, but he is not a god. And indeed, the Pope was proven further right as Messi dropped down 4p today. And on that note, let's have a look at today's risers and fallers. And top of the shop for today's risers is Rodrygo, the Brazilian striker, who rose 14p today and now sits at £2.33. Now there's been no new news on him whatsoever, and the rise simply seems down to a pump on Twitter, much in the same way Mason Greenwood at Manchester United received. Both players currently sit 26th and 21st on the index respectively, based purely on hype. At this stage, Greenwood could be the next Ronaldo, or he could be the next Federico Magueda, and it's very much the same with Rodrygo, with recent reports from Brazil actually indicating he's not enjoying a headlining season with Sao Paulo. So traders very much gambling on the fact then that Rodrygo will follow the path led by Vinicius Jr. Of course, like all these youth hype buys, if you got in early, great. You've made money on absolutely no merit whatsoever, and there's nothing wrong with that, of course, if you get in early enough. But those that have just jumped on board, just be extremely aware of these type of players. Our second riser today has a little bit more merit to him, and it's Arsenal's Welsh attacking midfielder, Aaron Ramsey. Ramsey's gone up 10p today and now sits at 97p. This is due to the fact he's scored in tonight's game at home to Newcastle. A player that currently has an 18% yield on him this season thanks to the media around his future earlier on in the season. But he's a player that could well do extremely well next season at Juventus, if given regular game time in a more advanced role. And when you're paying someone $400,000 a week, you'd expect them to be given a fair amount of preference. In the short term too, Arsenal is still in the Europa League, albeit with a tough tie against Napoli. So before tonight, Ramsey offered excellent value, and I still think he'll offer good value next season. So Ramsey and Rodrygo rising up in price today. One person who hasn't gone up in price today is Harry Kane. Indeed, he's today's biggest faller. Kane's fallen 8p today and now sits at £4.36. This is on the back of him failing to score yesterday in Tottenham's late 2-1 defeat to Liverpool. And indeed, he looked fairly sluggish in his performance overall. Perhaps in need of a slight rest, but if you're guaranteed anything with Kane, it's goals. He's the ultimate steady Eddie on Football Index, and with Manchester City in the Champions League and the semi-finals of the Nations League in the summer, it won't be too long before he bounces back. Today's second faller is the marauding Moroccan fullback for Dortmund, on loan for Real Madrid, and it's Hakimi. Hakimi's fallen 5p today and now sits at 87p, dropping 5p on the back of the news that he's broken his metatarsal during Dortmund's 2-0 win over Wolfsburg at the weekend, and as a result will miss the remainder of the season. Hakimi's had a great breakthrough season though, showing plenty of promise and willingness to get inside the box and rack up the shots and crosses, and he'll definitely be back next season. Let's head into some of your questions now then. And today's first question comes from Andy on Twitter, and Andy asks, what is your exit strategy on those players playing in the Champions League? First of all, let's just remind us of the teams left in the Champions League. They are Tottenham, Manchester City, Liverpool, Porto, Ajax, Juventus, Barcelona and Manchester United, with the first legs kicking off next week on the 9th of April. So what is the exit strategy on these players playing in the Champions League? Well, it very much depends on who you're looking at. If you're looking at a long-term prospect, someone like Pogba, for example, then you're more than likely to hold past the Champions League games. Even if United go out, you're still going to hold for the MB media that he'll generate throughout the summer, despite what Ole Gunnar Solskjaer or Zidane might say. Someone like Messi may be more volatile to the prices. Certainly if Barcelona put in a shock poor performance in the first leg, then you may look to sell before the second leg at the Nou Camp. The great thing about the European legs over 2 legs is that unless a team gets an absolute thrashing, which is unlikely looking at the matchups, then you have the week in between to decide what you want to do with a player. It's unlikely that a player is going to fall massively in between those 2 legs. Most holds are going to be pretty safe, with Manchester City fighting on 3 fronts still, so even if they go out to Tottenham, you've still got their league and their FA Cup to come, so I don't think there are going to be huge drops there. The Ajax team is obviously well known now, and a lot of people are going to be holding on to them for transfer links in the summer, so likewise I don't think you'll see a huge drop there if they go out to Juventus. Liverpool, obviously fighting for the title themselves, so they'll be semi-safe. So really you're only really looking at the Tottenham players and the Juventus players that may well drop significantly. And even then, the likes of Harry Kane have got the Nations League in the summer, so should he fall down a lot, he should rebound fairly quickly. Therefore, the biggest risk for me is Cristiano Ronaldo. Despite his fitness and age, and he will go on for another 2-3 years, of that I have no doubt, he is 34, and he does still have this case looming over him. So should Juventus suffer a shock exit to Ajax, I can see a big drop in Ronaldo once more. If he does, then I think it's a good time to pick him up before the start of new season, as he's still very much going to be the main man next season, and he's going to pick up a lot of PB next year. So in summary, in terms of the exit strategy, for those clubs that have more to lose, the Tottenhams, Juventus, I would look to sell before the second leg. For those that still have multiple reasons to hold, the likes of Ajax, Manchester City, then I would continue my hold as the rounds continue. Today's second question comes from Liam Donald via email, and Liam wants to know, Hi Bear, when looking at in-play dividend players, is it better to buy the player scoring the goal or the player making the assist, based on the new dividend payouts? Good question this, Liam. Let's just have a remind ourselves of what the dividends used to be like. So the payouts pre-share split were as follows. An assist was 1p, a goal for a forward was 2p, and a goal for a defender was 3p. Now the payouts post-share split, assists are still 1p, but the goal for a forward has dropped from 2p to 1p, and hence matching the payout for the assister. And for a defender, they get 2p per goal. So as I spoke about on previous episodes, there's been a huge boost for those players making the assists as opposed to those scoring. Now we started to see a little bit of evidence of traders being aware of this during the weekend, when Atalanta scored 3 goals against Parma in their 3-1 victory. Zapata took the headlines of course, doing 2 goals, but also having 2 assists and hence earning the same amount of dividends was their 31-year-old attacking midfielder Alejandro Gomez. Now Zapata currently sits at 81p, with Gomez sitting at 74p. So if you're going to go for the same return in the short term for 30 days, it's clearly much better to buy the cheaper player in Gomez than it is Zapata. If you believe, of course, that Gomez's assists will match Zapata's goal-scoring outputs. I think this awareness of assists certainly hasn't filtered through the whole market at all at this stage, but it is something traders are starting to become more savvy to. And I think we will see bigger rises in terms of cap app for those players making assists as well as just the goal scorers. But for now, that immediate awareness of seeing who scored the goal certainly still plays a bigger part than who assists the goal in terms of what's going through traders' brains at this stage. And while that continues, there will be value in those players making assists. And on the subject of those players making assists, on my Twitter page, @TradingBear1, I've posted the top 10 defenders with the most assists. Now, no surprises to see who tops that list. It's the current most expensive defender on the game, Joshua Kimmich. But there are a few surprises on that list for those hunting down value. A couple of examples of this is Hollybass at Watford, who's got 6 assists this season. Kenny Lala, slightly more well known, the Strasbourg fullback with 8 assists. And Jonathan Silva at La Liga club Leganes, who also has 6 assists, and priced at just 24p. So very much value there if you just look a little bit deeper. And that's it for this episode. You can download and subscribe to the show on iTunes, Spotify and Podbean. Head over to the website to send in a question, tradingbearpodcast.com. Alternatively, you can find me on Index Gain or Twitter under the name Trading Bear. Thanks for listening and stay tuned for the Mystery Player.
Mystery player. Position.
Defender.
Start price.
70p.
Current price.
£1.55.
PB.
0.
MB.
0.
Dividend yield.
0%.
Trading Bear. Today's mystery player was Crystal Palace defender Aaron Wan-Bissaka.